Welcome, everyone, to Healthcare Leadership Live. I'm your host, Mike Lyons, an HR services provider focused on healthcare. And I'm absolutely thrilled that you're joining us here today. Whether you're tuning in on the podcast or the live stream, you're in the right place. If you are a healthcare leader who's hungry for actionable tips to help propel your growth. And I love to bring guests on the show who are knowledgeable about things that can help you with your business. And today we've got Brandon Barber from Savvy Advisors, and we're going to talk about 401k. Welcome, Brandon.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Mike. What a pleasure.
Absolutely. And, Brandon is someone that I've known for a while, and he really just brings a tremendous amount of passion and energy to everything that he does, whether it's family or work or just helping people out. And so I knew he would be a great guy to talk with today. So, Brandon, I guess I wanted to start with, we're going to talk about 401k.
Yeah.
You know, I've done HR for 20 years, and honestly, 401k has never been one of those things that got me super, super excited because there's a lot of like workload and stuff on the HR side, and a lot of times employees don't pay attention to it,
Yeah.
we're going to get into some of that stuff here today. But what got you into
Well,
401k?
yeah, I bet from an HR perspective, always comes up in recruiting. Like when you're trying to get, top hires, they always ask about the 401k. But once they're live, it's like, oh man, now I got to enroll them. Now I got to educate them. Now I got to be the person answering all their questions. So, really the reason I got into it, I spent 15 years working with HR leaders, CFOs, owners of small companies. I grew up under a business owner. My parents were business owners. My mom was a teacher. And I kind of took the elements of what I kept seeing. I kept seeing HR and finance overwhelmed by 401ks. It's not your traditional benefit. Like health insurance, you renew it every year. You're looking at it. You typically have a really good broker who's helping you and thinking critically about it. A lot of times 401k is just kind of left over in the dust. There's no renewal. There's nothing like that they have to do. They just have all these compliance tests, and they've got a lot of compliance check-ins and maybe audits if they're over 100 employees. And so it's just it's more of a strain, right? And it's not a cool benefit and joy, something that you can really showcase. And I wanted to change that. They're so important to businesses. They're so important to employees. Employees look to employers to be their kind of safety net in all of this in life, and being an American and saving and being able to retire. And so I want to help employers be awesome employers. And I just kept seeing it as a pain point for year over year over year, conversation after conversation. And yeah, it just became a deeper passion. And so, yeah, I love the conversation. I love talking money, love talking shop, love helping HR.
Well, yeah. Whenever you talk money, people pay attention for sure.
Always gets attention, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said about wanting to help employers be better. And that's something I can identify with really strongly. And I think employers are looking for anything that they can do to get some kind of an edge, right? And you talked about, when people look at a job opportunity, right? Like I'm talking to a client and they're like, well, what can we put in our job description about the benefits that we offer, right? And so 401k is one of those things people look at a lot, right?
Sure. Yeah. No, it's one of the most sought after benefits, right? Obviously, health insurance is so critical, but 401ks is too. And like people will ask about it and look for it. But a lot of times it's kind of intimidating to shop, similar to benefits. There's so many vendors, there's so many carriers. Do I have an advisor? Do I have a trustee? Do I have a record keeper? Do I have a TPA? Like it's a lot.
Yes, and that's why it's I've always relied very heavily on my 401k partners to help
Yeah.
with that administrative load, which it can be significant, and it's hard to kind of be an expert in that. And so I guess maybe let's talk about that. We're kind of
Cool.
weaving into some of the administrative difficulties there. What are some of the things that HR people, when you talk to them, that repel them when it comes to 401k admin work?
Oh, I mean, admin work. There's a lot of it, Mike. You know that you've been in the HR director role, and you've been for companies above 100 employees, below 100 employees.
Yep.
Things get a lot more complex once you grow past that certain size, and you're having to do audits. But I mean, I would say the thing that like stresses HR out the most is they care so much about their employees and they see their employees struggle with finances. They see them taking loans out of their paychecks. They see them asking for advances. They see the money stress and money fights. They see the stats about how CNBC shared that 77% of Americans feel anxiety with their money. Maybe a lot of people listen to that and they're like, I think that's a little low. But HR is
Mhm.
worried about their team, right? And so they see this solution for them in the 401k. They offer those 401ks, but sometimes it's like, how do we really help employees understand it, maximize it, utilize it, and let's take some of that anxiety off their plate? Because we all know if folks are anxious, if it's causing issues in their marriage and their home life, it's going to come into their work life. And so HR cares a lot. And, sometimes that's the double edged sword of HR. You care so much. And when you see so much anxiety and pain and pressure with money, you want to help. And so that's probably the thing that I see the most.
Mm.
There's plenty of admin things out there, and there's great tools and resources. In 2019, the Secure Act came out with a lot of great things for administrators to take a lot of that administrative work off their plate. But something that's not going to change anytime soon is continuing to see their employees struggle with money and trying to figure out how do we help them.
Yeah, and I totally agree, right? Like that's a huge issue right now. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head when you say that stress outside of work will come right into work. And money is the number one thing there. So um are there resources that someone like yourself or can offer to help employees to maybe manage their day-to-day finances, not and even starting before they even start to think about 401k?
Yeah, yeah, no, of course. So I'll share some more stats because in any time that there's anxiety, facts are your friends, right? And it's like let's understand what it looks like in the U.S. economy today from a financial wellness perspective. So I shared the one about financial anxiety. 77% of Americans have anxiety with money. Ramsey Solutions says that nearly 7 out of 10 people have trouble having $1,000 in emergency fund. I think a lot of us have seen stats like that. $1,000 emergency fund. 70% of employees or people, Americans, don't have that. Those are huge stats, right? Ramsey had shared one that only 20% of Americans are financially literate. And so it's like you have some of those stats, and sometimes those can be daunting. But the cool thing is, Saveology, another team member that I work with, or another platform I work with, they help us with a lot of financial education here at Savvy. They support a lot of our clients and their employees with financial plans and planning. They report a really cool stat that gives me a lot of hope. They say that 83% of people who set financial goals feel better about their finances after just 1 year. So there's so much truth to that. Like when there's fear, as I said at the start of this, when there's fear, facts are your friends. And facts are, if you set some plans, if you set some goals, you can move into a positive light. You can move out of that stress and out of that anxiety. Becoming a little bit more financially literate can help so much. And so, yeah, that's a huge way we can bring some value and relieve HR.
I talk about leadership mindset a lot, and I'm going to go a little bit on a tangent, but I'm going to tie it back. And
Cool.
that is, if you have a plan, for your work, if you have a plan for your life and you write it out, number one, it's going to give you, and I love what you said, it's going to give you so much confidence. And as a matter of fact, I was working on one for myself earlier today, a written plan just so I could have a vision. And it immediately made me feel better. And so I completely agree that, folks can just spend some time thinking about their future and creating a plan, and maybe it's not a huge thing, but have some kind of plan. It can give you a lot of
Sure.
confidence.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Anytime I get really stressed out, my wife's always like, Brandon, write it all out and you won't feel as bad. And it always helps me because I'm like, I feel just when I feel so overwhelmed, I'm like, okay, let me go write it all out. I pull out a yellow pad and just jot it all down. And it's like, okay, this is manageable. I can do this. And that's the same way with a lot of employees. Once
Yeah.
it just seems so overwhelming. But once you look at it and you've got a good person in your corner, it improves quickly.
Yeah. And so so when employees get help, with this kind of stuff, I would have to think that it helps them to be able to focus on work and you know, ease their mind on some of that stuff.
Oh, heavens, yeah. No, it's education, coaching, financial wellness tools. Sometimes they're kind of especially like financial wellness tools. Like there's kind of paralysis of the analysis. There's so many of them, but if you
Mhm.
really just like make it reachable and make it really easy for employees to utilize, they're used. And those tools, there's great tools out there. We just got to help Americans, help employees understand that it's there, it's available. Like you have a way to get out of this anxiety.
Yeah. I'm curious about for so because there may be a wide range of folks watching here,
Yeah.
small clinics, small businesses to medium to large. If I'm a small business, maybe I just have a few employees. Is 401k attainable for someone like that?
Oh yeah, no. In years past, it might have been kind of scary, but man, the IRS has done a lot to incentivize small businesses to offer plans.
Mm,
Right now, there's so many states that are requiring retirement plans. Typically, the state sponsored ones, and it's a lot of states are looking at adding that, but yeah, there's so many incentives and so many technology providers out there willing and hopeful to help small businesses because we
mm,
know how important it is for small businesses to help their employees save.
yeah.
Small businesses are the backbone of the American economy. So many people are employed by small business owners. And so we got to help those small business owners help their employees.
Mhm.
Um, because the fear is that Social Security is not going to be there always, and so it's to combat that fear and that anxiety from employees, we want to be able to help them and be able to put a great plan in place. And some small business owners are worried about the match. The IRS is even presenting tax credits to be able to alleviate that match for owners. And so not only paying for administrative fees, but over the course of the first 5 years of having the plan, IRS is also doing things for small business owners to be able to help alleviate and repay them back for matching employees.
So is it fair to say that, if I'm a small business or any kind of business, right? Like maybe I have not had a 401k in place before and I haven't done the math
Now's the time.
and all that stuff, you know, working with someone like you, would you be
Sure.
able to sit down with them and say, "Hey, this is what's attainable for your business and how you can help your employees?"
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I recommend like go Google a 401k tax credit calculator right now. Like the
Mm,
tax credit, it's a credit, not a deduction, but go look it up. We have a great one on our website at savvywealth.com.
mm,
You can find it. I can post a link to it, but just a couple questions. You can plug in how many employees you have. Are you planning on doing a match? How much do you think the plan's going to cost? And if you're a small business, 25 and under, say right around that $5,000 annual mark to offer a plan is extremely reasonable. You can plug all those things in and see what those tax credits could come back as. And Mike, they're considerable.
Well, anytime I hear the word tax credit, I start to perk my ears up a little bit, and I
Yeah,
think of any business, especially starting out, you're gonna wanna look at those things. So that's something I had no idea about, and
yeah,
so thanks for sharing that. I do wanna say
absolutely. great for small business owners. Know what those are. There's not a lot of people like me out there who are like actively trying to help startups, because it's we get paid on assets under management, and startup plans are a lot of work, and there's no assets to have under management. But I find that it's so important to help businesses start this, establish a strong process, and to be able to help them from the beginning to like get it set up and get it set up well. And yeah, no, now's the time. It's a great time to look at those plans to be able to help employees, and those tax credits that are out there. Yeah, would love to help anyone watching that has questions kind of walk through it and understand it.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine that, we talked a little bit about the concerns that HR people have when it comes
Right.
to 401k, and a small business may be thinking too, like, oh man, what would I be getting into, here? Is there any, what would you say to someone that might be worried about some of the paperwork and all that stuff?
Oh yeah. So I mean, 401ks have come a long way, even over the last 10 years. And so something that's come up are things like 316 administrative services. Like we see that term a lot. What that means to most businesses is it's a fiduciary stepping in, not from an investment side, but from an administrative side. And so you can bring on these companies, these 316 administrators, to help administer the plan on your behalf, and sharing that workload and sharing that liability that HR typically feels a lot of weight from. On top of that, Mike, there's a really cool thing that I'll talk about here in a little bit called a pooled employer plan. DOL just did a huge announcement on this last Monday. So, I mean, within the last week, so that the last week of July. If you're watching this at a later time, go look up DOL PEP, PEP. Those are a up and coming model that 401ks are following, and they're going to increase in popularity. And the big piece of that is eliminating administrative burden back to HR, finance, payroll.
Wow. Well, anything that eliminates the burden. Oh, interesting. Yeah. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure somebody's watching and they're like, it's August. It's the first week of August right now. Last week was 5,500 deadline, and the 5,500 deadline, if you have over 100 participants, is gnarly because you have this huge audit that you have to do. You got to go hire a CPA firm. They have to audit the plan. It's hours and countless amounts of work and reports and everything. And if you're HR and you hear 731 or you hear 5,500 and you cringe, there is a better way out there. Those PEPs, those pooled employer plans, definitely something to go take a look at, because those companies can join those pooled employer plans and not have to worry about that audit ever again. It's so really cool. MEPs, PEPs, they've been around for a little bit now, but since the Secure Act, in 2019, Secure Act 2.0, those have become increasingly popular. And it's all around how can we make it easier and more administratively accessible. So yeah, a lot of great things going on right now. That the world of retirement plans is growing, and it's a fun time to be in this industry.
Mm. Well, this is a great opportunity for those folks who are watching on LinkedIn Live or YouTube Live. You can share a comment or a question for Brandon, and I'm going to put one up here on the screen right here. Craig Isaac said, Brandon knows his stuff. I agree with that.
Craig.
So yeah, if you have a question for Brandon or a comment, this is a great time. If you're a business owner, you've got a clinic and you're thinking about 401k, or maybe you have some problems with your current plan, this is a great time to throw a question in, and let's put Brandon on the spot here.
Cool. Yeah.
and see if we can throw him a curveball. But one thing that employees, they may feel overwhelmed by choices, in 401k. So
don't we all?
Yeah, right.
Amazon, just trying to pick something out on Amazon is tough these days.
Yeah,
the same thing.
So yeah, so how can a good 401k partner like help to alleviate that stuff, that
Yeah.
fusion?
I mean, you think about that, like an employee, they see a lot of choices and they have that anxiety, like, oh my gosh, this is outside of my scope. I don't feel literate. Who's the first person they're asking about that? The person sitting next to them or the person presenting it? And if that's HR, that's not an area that you want to go down as. If you're in
Mhm.
HR, you don't want to answer those questions. You don't want to give financial advice, and you
Right.
shouldn't. It's a big liability. So you need someone like me. You need a quarterback in the room to be able to support. And so, yeah, education's everything. When there's fear, facts help. Facts are awesome, and that's where we can help. We can sit
Mhm.
down. We can offer personalized coaching with employees. Again, in a spirit of trying to keep things really simple. Not only is it simple for administrators with a lot of the new things coming out, but it's simpler for employees. The rise of target date funds. Target date funds are what a lot of plans have as their qualified default investment allocation, a QDIA, if you've ever heard that acronym. We love acronyms in our world, but a lot of employees, if the thought of picking an investment's overwhelming, it's done now just based off your birth date, and so it calculates up, and most plans are able to do this really easily. But when the employee is going to log in, each fund, each plan should have a qualified default investment allocation. And most of the time, those are target date funds. And so what a target date fund is, Mike, is finds your birth date and it picks out the year and around the time that you're supposed to retire or thinking or typically retire, what the averages look at, and it invests on someone based off that of that age.
Mm.
So those are really effective. A lot of folks are in those plans. It's become an increasing, when I'm looking at plans, a lot of folks like that, that's the default and that's where a lot of people stick. And so like you, again, as an HR person, you want to make sure that the things that you have in place are helping employees.
Mm.
Um, because I also saw a plan recently that their qualified default investment was just a basic money market. And so
Mm.
a lot of employees were enrolling and they were just putting their money in the same thing that they could get in their bank. And their funds aren't going to grow. They're just putting their contribution, the match is going on top. And that's a big fiduciary risk as well to the employer. So there's a lot of risks and arrows flying around. Just know that it doesn't have to be so difficult. If you got questions, get a good person in your corner, whether it's me or whether it's another advisor out there. Find someone who focuses on 401k and they don't just dabble in 401k. There's not a lot of advisors out there who just focus on 401ks. I
Mm.
saw a stat that less than 1% of advisors focus on just retirement plans. Most focus and dabble in a lot of different areas, private wealth, individuals, family. So yeah, find someone that knows 401ks and get them to work with your team.
So we had a comment come in through LinkedIn. As more advisors start working with business owners on their 401k plans, how valuable is it to have someone involved who understands the full picture, not just the retirement side, but also payroll, onboarding, and compliance?
Yeah, I mean that's a nice softball to whoever threw that to me.
Whoop.
I appreciate that. It's invaluable, right? Having someone who not only knows how to talk to employees, how to talk to HR, understands what HR is thinking, but to also think of the full picture of the retirement plan. What's the difference between a 180 integration and a 360 integration? Does that payroll system even have open APIs? Is it a file feed? Is it an API? That in like the who you pick for payroll has a big impact on the amount of compliance and work that the administrator has to do. And so being able to have someone who has a lot of experience in all of those pieces, it helps tremendously. Just from knowledge. Again, facts are your friends. We want to give people good facts. We want to help people. We want to make sure people understand how things work and how to be able to make their plans work as efficiently as possible. And yeah, Yeah, I definitely believe in go find somebody who knows all those worlds because they can help you out a lot.
Yeah, and as an HR practitioner, I can say without a doubt that you can definitely have problems with your data feed. You can have problems with the enrollment process. You don't want an employee, or let's say a business owner or a senior manager, coming to you and saying, "Hey, I put this amount into my 401k. Where is it? Or why did it deduct too much or not enough or nothing at all?" And when it comes to onboarding, you want to make sure that that's built in, that we're educating about 401k and how that 401k provider is going to interact with your employees. Is it going to be stuffy and you get a letter in the mail, or are you going to get like some coaching and like a connection, and what to expect, right? So usually it's an HR person doing that onboarding, right? And so maybe this leads to a good question right here. So if I'm a business owner and I'm going to work with a new 401k provider partner, what are things I should be thinking about when it comes to how that company is going to interact with my precious employees that we've been talking about?
Yeah, integrations and interfaces and data feeds and data files, they're not all built the same. Ask questions. Understand what data moves where. Is it automatic? Is it coming from HR uploading a CSV file? How's money move? How does data flow back and forth? Ask questions. Get somebody in your corner to help you understand how data flows. Because if you don't, you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, yeah, we integrate. And sometimes when people say integration, they're not saying the same integration that you think of. They're saying, yeah, we integrate, but that means that you have to upload a file and then we integrate.
You are the integration.
Yeah, you're the integrator. And so ask good questions. Yeah, no, I think ask questions around integration. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Understand, have your advisor walk through fees in a very detailed perspective, because if you don't, your employees are going to ask you. And so being able to talk through that and to be able to be really clear with how things work.
um we're talking about employee. I'm a big into psychological safety and trust, and I talk about that with my leadership training and when I'm coaching as a manager or HR leader. And it seems to me that where employees are going to be putting their money is an area where you want to cultivate a lot of trust with them, right? If I don't trust you, I'm probably not going to work with you. I'm not going to put my money into that instrument there. um how can HR leaders make sure that they're working with someone that their employees are going to have trust in?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great question, right? We all want to be authentic. We all want to be real to the people who we're speaking with. And I'll tell you, and maybe, Mike, I think it'd be cool to share kind of what made me want to do this. So, 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, we don't have to look at it precisely, but about 10 years ago, it was 6 a.m. I was on a construction site and I was helping an advisor with an open enrollment for 401k. So this advisor was working with me. I was supporting him from a technology side to get employees enrolled in a 401k plan. And I pop out of my truck and I'm ready to roll in this blue collar construction site and help these employees understand their plan and get them enrolled. It's a brand new plan. And out walks the advisor who brought me in. And he is wearing a full 3-piece suit, slick back hair, pocket square, tie, clip, and we're walking into a construction site at 6 a.m. These guys are drinking their coffee. They're about to go and have a really hard day's work. And I mean, we walked in, it was super awkward. He started talking. He was using huge words, big acronyms that they don't understand. And 20 minutes or so, no one had enrolled. We were there. It's like 6:20, 6:30. And so I step up and I roll up my sleeves and I'm like, guys, like, let's talk about this. Let's talk about how cool your employer is for offering a match. Do y'all know what a match means?
Mm.
Well, that means that there's free money out there. You've got a raise here if you take advantage of this. We just talk through how plans work. I ask for questions, I ask for feedback. At the end of that conversation, at the end of that enrollment, about 10 minutes later, we had 43 out of the 45 people participating in the plan. And it's like people don't want to get talked down to. They look at financial advisors wearing suits and ties, and sometimes they get really intimidated, frustrated, anxious, uncomfortable. You want somebody who's able to talk your language, to listen, to be able to have, as Dave Ramsey puts it, and I love this, have the heart of a teacher, not the heart of a salesperson. I mean, there's just a lot of really cool things that an advisor should be able to do. They should be able to connect with your team. So when you're finding an advisor, I would say try to find someone who matches the style and personality of your team. It's a reason why just the way I'm built and structured. I love working with what I call like a gray collar or blue collar folks. It's how my dad. I was raised. My dad was a business owner. He was a mechanic shop, and so I got to experience that. I got to help his employees. I got to talk with him and do bookkeeping and stuff for him. But find somebody who identifies well with your team, who your team would listen to. You know your team, you're HR. You know your team better than almost anyone. Find someone who speaks to your employees the way that they want to be spoken to.
Yeah, it's so true. Whether you're in HR or 401k, your goal should be to help. That's why we got into this, and I love that story because it just illustrates in a visual way that people are gonna trust you based on how you present yourself,
Yeah.
and that's really good advice. Whether you're you know talking about 401k or you're just trying to lead your clinic and lead your business, are you going to present yourself in a relatable, down to earth way? Or are you going to try to be high and mighty and talk about science and stuff? And sometimes doctors fall into this trap a little bit if they're running a clinic and because they think at a doctor level and they don't remember to be relatable. So that's a super important tip there. We have a comment here from Katie. Love the Dave Ramsey reference. I'm a Dave Ramsey adherent myself, so I can certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I always love that mentality, and just the heart of a teacher, not the heart of a salesperson. Like I've been in sales for 15 years. Like yes, to my core nature, like that is who I am and what I've done in my career. But I was raised by an amazing mom who taught me how to be a great teacher, how to talk to kids, and how to be able to impact their lives and get them to learn. And I think there's so much of that needed in the financial advising world. There's so much of authenticity that's needed. There's so much of, identifying with the person sitting across the table and listening and helping and supporting. And that's my goal, Mike. Is I want to help. I want folks to understand money. Those stats that I shared at the beginning, the $1,000 emergency fund, the anxiety, the financial literacy, like those things can be solved with education. Those things can be solved with some help and a mentor, companion, someone in their corner helping. And, it's just one at a time. We want to help one person at a time. We want to help one person at a time be a little bit more financially literate, have a little bit better understanding of their money, know what's going on with their money, know how their money works, know what it's going to look like 20 years from now. We can't predict the future. We can't predict stocks, but what we can do is support. We can help. We provide really awesome technology. We can make the experience really clean and simple. But at the end of the day, you got to have somebody sitting on the other side of the table who will pick up the phone and talk and help.
Well, that is it's super apparent to me, Brandon, that you are a person that people would want to get in touch with, and you're super relatable. So I appreciate you sharing that, and I think
Appreciate
that
that.
theme of service is so clear, and your dad definitely passed that down onto you. I'm sure he was a great mechanic and probably related very well with his customers.
You
How can
did.
people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about what you do?
Man, yeah, I'd love it. Hopefully, from a relatability perspective, I didn't lose too many folks at the Dallas Cowboys football behind me.
Yeah, we're
I'm
gonna
sure
probably stay
somebody
away from.
is cursing my name right now, but hey, I grew up in Fort Worth, and so I got to experience Cowboys victories when I was like a child, and so I'm always hoping for it.
There you go.
Here's the hope for any of my other Cowboy fans out there.
There's always hope.
But yeah, Mike, would love to connect. Find me on LinkedIn, Brandon Barber, Barber like a barbershop. Hopefully that's a memorable enough name. Check out our website, savvywealth.com. Look up Savvy Advisors. Our technology team, we are doing some incredible things to help individuals, help create a better experience, reimagining wealth management, really helping from that perspective. Right now, we've got nearly 70 advisors across the country who think the way that I was just talking about, with the heart of a teacher and a heart of making sure that we've got good people supporting employees and individuals. So yeah, check out our website. Find me on LinkedIn. Ask Mike. He can do an introduction. We're here to help. But Brandon Barber, find me on LinkedIn. Would love to be able to support you and your team. If you've got a question, would love to help.
Awesome. Well, I think a theme here for this conversation, and maybe even a theme for my whole show here, is helping and teaching. I think those words probably came up many, many times here in this
Yeah.
conversation. So thank you, Brandon, for being here on the show. And yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch with him, I can definitely help connect you guys. But this has been another episode here of Healthcare Leadership Live. What I really strive to do is help inform, right? So that, again, helping and teaching. And so I hope you found some actionable information here in the show. The journey of being a leader in healthcare is ongoing. You've got to continually learn and grow. So I'm going to continue to bring you information and insight from different folks on this show. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and look for us on the live stream here on LinkedIn. Thanks for everybody that commented or asked questions. And so this brings us to the end of the show. Thanks for tuning in, and now go out and lead with confidence.
Bye, y'all.